This news video today is kinda insane, but so was the week. Check it out right here, right now. Greetings Rommies and welcome to romrom.net, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing, and to a regular news roundup, our weekly sim racing news. Welcome to the channel, thanks for stopping by. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. If you have any news for us, send us a mail to news@romrom.net. From Rennsport to Automobilista to many tiny news, so many we've reopened our short news section for this week. There's almost everything for everyone today. We start with sales. Using Halloween as an excuse, many sim studios have reduced their prices. Automobilista 2 have everything at 50% until tomorrow. Race Room give 20% price reductions until the 8th of November, and rFactor 2 drop their prices between 20% and 75% depending on what you want. We'll have more on rFactor 2 later in this video, by the way. Just in time to be able to call it the October development update, Reza posted the newest news in their forum about what's coming into the sim in the next update and content drop. After some soul searching, they are ready to announce what is going to be included in the delayed Racing USA Part 3 update. The talks with IndyCar seem to be dragging on, so no IndyCar there for the moment, but Indianapolis will most assuredly be in that DLC. While of course the oval is enormously famous, let's not forget the Roval course is also great to race, which is why modern IndyCars race oval and Roval configurations back to back. As they said in the past, the Auto Club and WTT ovals will remain free to try until Racing USA Part 3 drops, as they are part of the DLC. Sounds like IndyCar want a lot of money that Reza either doesn't have or is not willing to part with, or the contract is as convoluted as you would expect from IndyCar. Or Renato is waiting for Motorsport Games to tank the IndyCar 2022 sim like they did the NASCAR 21 one, and then Indy will sing a different tune. More content. Those of us who love to drive historic version of tracks will at last be able to race Spa 1970 with its full 14-kilometer deadly traps. This has been done completely from scratch using LiDAR data of the parts of the track that are still left. The track will come in two configurations, with and without the Montmedy chicane. And while we are on the subject of historic versions, Reza expect to deliver Nürburgring 1971 until the end of the year, by which we hope they mean this year. Also, they tease a run of historic content in the upcoming months to fulfill the rest of the season pass. Not all is tracks though, as the newest car to come into Automobilista 2 will be the Corvette C4 GTP, free of cost as Reza very often do. As you can see, this is a sports prototype that General Motors developed together with Lola in the late 1980s, which use different engines. Moving on to other changes coming to Automobilista 2, Group C and GT1 cars are also getting low downforce variants, and Brazilian stock cars Copa Montana, Stock Omega and Stock Opala will get dedicated oval variants after Reza noticed you weirdos trying to race anything and everything on ovals. Oh, and remember the Helicorsa for Automobilista 2 we showed you a while ago? Reza noticed the appliance and worked with Master Loser to include it officially into Automobilista 2, as you can see from this video they released. Way to go, Master Loser, and great of Reza to notice it and bring him on board for this. We love it when sim makers work with the community and listen to it. For those waiting for helmet livery customization, wait no longer, it will be part of the next update. Moving on to physics, the F-Trainer, the Opala Old Stock and the FV10 Gen 1 got some corrections, while cards got a complete physics revision. Regarding the advanced mechanical damage model, more cars are now going to be able to use it, and the influence of it on engine power loss has been revised. One thing they are working on but will not be ready yet for this update will be wing, suspension and tire damage failures resulting from material stress. The AI now is aware of draft, searching the draft to gain an advantage, but also aware of the turbulence when being too close behind another driver. AI pit stop strategies have been improved once again, this time with an eye towards longer races. And now you can customize the rules of a specific class with one click, as they have motorsport rule presets. Also, and while they don't go into details, they say they've improved the support of Logitech, Fanatec and Simucube wheels. NASCAR 21 released a paid DLC with many paint jobs and not much more, which went up like a lead balloon, of course. F1 22 has changed the driver ratings after the results in Suzuka. I hope they included a point system for the most gracious spin. Signed 9.7, 8.9, 9.6, 9.6. Just saying. And after the US, they'll have to include ratings for best flying, right? ATS and ETS2 have changed Halloween into Halloween, which means that you have to do 13 deliveries of Halloween treats of at least 100 kilometers to reach a World of Tracks achievement, which means you have to be logged into it. If you do that, you'll get a swinging bat dashboard toy. I love bats, so maybe I'll be trucking this next week to get it. If the community overall reaches 666,000 deliveries, everyone who helped and reached their personal goal will also get a pumpkin head hanging toy for their cabin. While the event was planned only until the 6th of November, they've now extended it until the end of the 1.46 beta testing period. Staying with trucks but moving to race room, on Friday they teased truck racing coming soon to the sim. We called it a while ago, remember? No details have been provided, but, well, at least we get another sim with trucks in it after Automobilista and Automobilista 2. And no, we have not forgotten about the mod for Assetto Corsa. And not any kind of pedals, no, these pedals are not magnetic, they are not hydraulic, but something completely different. The Simucube active pedal, as they call it, has a continuous screw which resistance is controlled via a motor that you set up through software, thus giving you up to 150 kilos of resistance on the pedal. And if you can press 150 kilo, more power to you, you really have trained well. The whole power and resistance curve of the pedals can be customized the way you can do that with hydraulic pedals, which may lead to endless fiddling. Don't go down that road, it'll only lead to confusion. This also means that in the end they sell you the same pedal as often as you need it, as one and the same pedal can be configured through the software to be a clutch, a brake, or a throttle pedal. It seems the setup of the pedals will allow for them to give you some kind of force feedback based on the telemetry of the sim or game you're using. And not only does it warm my heart to hear that wonderful Finnish accent in English.
My name is Tero Kontkanen.
Hi, I'm Antti Virta.
Hi, I'm Iiro.
The philosophy of these engineers was form follows function, which is a philosophy I wholeheartedly embrace. No date has been given for the release of the pedals, only a pre-sale start of Q4 2022, the quarter we already are in by the way, and neither have Simucube disclosed any price or price range. Expect the hole in your bank account to be painful, because Simucube built great stuff, but it comes at a price. rFactor 2 released a hotfix this week with many fixes to issues having to do with triple monitor configurations as well as more than one monitor stuff. And they at last officially announced they are going to include Bahrain into the sim, something they had teased already many times in the past. The track has been laser scanned, will come with a Q4 content release as paid DLC, and will include a total of 4 different configurations of the track: Bahrain International Circuit, Endurance Layout, Auto Loop and Paddock configuration. And you know, this is one of the Tilkedromes we don't hate as much as we hate the others. Another thing that will come with a Q4 content drop will be the BMW 330 EM Sport BTCC, yet another effort to milk BTCC fans out of their hard-earned money. Instead of publishing a BTCC DLC with all track and cars for a fair all-inclusive price, Studio 397 are publishing breadcrumb after breadcrumb, so you don't notice you're ending up paying more for a bunch of cars that you would otherwise. And we still don't have all the tracks of the BTCC as official content in rFactor 2. Not exactly a nice way to treat your customers. Continuing with the streak of miserable decisions by Frontier that all those who have to do with Elite Dangerous already know and dislike, Frontier have announced on Reddit that after the next upgrade and a mere 2 months after the release of F1 Manager 22, they will stop doing any upgrades to the game, and that any upgrades the buyers have wished for won't come until F1 Manager 23. This is about what we said in our review of the game when we stated, "These may be marketing, as if you enter at 100%, you don't have much room for improvement, and marketing for the game next year." As I fear, this will be a game that gets released every year like other franchises. Once again, buyers of F1 games or games by Frontier are screwed over by a company that has long lost their mojo and a racing series that is going downhill in quality fast. Soon enough, anything that has Frontier or F1 in front of it will be a hard pass for gamers who don't have their money loose in their pockets. They tried to backpedal 2 days later as the proverbial storm hit the fan, but it did sound disingenuous, and the gaslighting that went with the post did nothing but fan the flames. That said, the next and seemingly last update will bring visual updates, changes in the fuel usage in qualifying, where at the moment your engineer tells you you may run out of fuel at the end of the hot lap, and changing estimated race time calculations. Using an ad blocker? Understandable. Still want to support us? Become a patron. Amongst other perks, it will fix your name for posterity like this, but you'll also get to know what we plan and what we're doing, so a big thank you to our patrons. If you come here regularly, please consider subscribing, and clicking on like will tell YouTube this video is worth showing to more people. In a Discord Q&A session by Rennsport on Friday, CEO Maurice Hebecker and lead developer Christoph Scheck answered many questions put forward by the community. Many questions were centered around which kind of motorsports Rennsport will support, and while the focus is clearly on the usual sprint races on tracks, they will also have 3 hill climb tracks ready for when the sim is released, and they have endurance, including driver swaps, etc. in the roadmap for later releases. While most of the famous tracks are going to be in the beta, there are no plans for ovals during the beta phase, and while they kept open the possibility of having some ovals on release, they promised nothing, which makes sense. Specifically, CEO Hebecker talked about Nürburgring, Hockenheimring, Red Bull Ring or Monza being in Rennsport from the get-go. Modern and historic content will be also featured at some point during the next years. No off-road tracks will be offered in the release, as they openly said the physics are not ready for this just yet, but they left open the possibility of including off-road racing, by which they mostly understood rally, in later versions. The same can be said about drifting. The physics are not there yet, and no drifting will be in the first release, but they are also open to including drifting into Rennsport at a later date. They confirmed they are in talks with some series to be able to offer the whole roster of that series, and expect to have 1 or 2 ready when the release takes place, but would not disclose any further details as the talks are ongoing. While we were talking about content, they confirmed the next car they are going to include in the sim is going to be the Audi R8 V10 GT3, which raises the number of companies appearing in Rennsport to 3 for the time being, Porsche and BMW being the other 2. Track and car mods will be supported, even fantasy ones, but we already knew that much. Christoph hinted at giving mod makers the same tools that developers use to develop models for the sim, so mod makers can end up producing as high a quality tracks and cars as the developers. Of course, creating your own liveries will be supported too. Moving on, they stated that while they have VR support already inside Rennsport, it's not yet at a quality level they are willing to share with the closed beta testers, so it will not be included in the closed beta, but later in either the open beta or in the first release. Keeping in mind they are using Unreal Engine 5, it's no surprise they have to work hard to make VR work in any quality they feel comfortable to release. Remember how difficult it was for Assetto Corsa Competizione. Oh, and multiplayer racing using split screen is not something they have looked into for now, so don't expect to see it anytime soon. Rennsport already supports DLSS and ray tracing, although with regards to ray tracing the developers said about the same they said about VR. It's there, but not yet in a quality that they consider acceptable. They are not sure if it's even going to be in the beta. The focus of Rennsport is very much the community, so online racing will be something they will support from the first release on. At the moment you can already set up races with up to 12 drivers, and of course they expect to raise that number bit by bit with every new version. Of course they don't know how many pilots Rennsport will be able to support on release, but the overall goal is to support very large numbers of racers on one track. Continuing with online racing, they are going to have a ranking system similar to what everyone else has included in their sim, and it will maybe be as useful as all the others, we would say. Of course, there will be also methods implemented to punish dirty drivers. A very interesting thing about the way they will support communities is that you will be able to build up teams in Rennsport like you do clans in multiplayer games, and you won't even need to be a driver, as you can become the manager of the team. Of course, due to the short time in the Q&A session as well as Rennsport still being in alpha, they could not go further into detail. Also, you will be able to create your own leagues within the sim. While they are in favor of having a safety car and even human-driven safety cars, this is not a high priority for the release date. There will be a photo mode and a replay system in place latest at release, including a spectator system and a broadcasting system that, from what they said, seems will be supporting third-party tools and software to choose cameras, display overlays and similar. Rennsport will support a wide variety of wheel systems already in the beta, but the team didn't want to disclose any specifics. We suppose they are still working on that area, which is only normal. It's a big, wide ecosystem that has to be tested thoroughly. They ask for patience and to wait until the closed beta is released. Speaking about the closed beta, they told us they were aiming for a feature and tech freeze at the end of December, so as to have a version in place that could be released as closed beta. This sounds as if, depending on how much QA they do, they are aiming for a release of the closed beta for January or February of next year. As they will not have anyone on the beta under a non-disclosure agreement, expect to be getting news quite soon after they open the doors for that exclusive club of lucky buzzards. The open beta will then start in Q1 or Q2 of the next year. And while we are talking timelines, Hebeka told those in the QA session that the horizon for their broad roadmap is about 10 years. That's how long they expect Rennsport to at least keep running, which is not unrealistic if you look at the date of release of most of our beloved sims. As there is never a game over in our sims, we can race anytime, anywhere, forever and ever after. We're sure there is one big question that you all have, and that is the payment model. At last we got some specific answer about that, with the CEO disclosing that it would be free to enter but not free to play, and that after that you would have to pay a subscription. Paid for by this subscription would be some but not all of the cars and tracks, while other cars and tracks would have to be paid on top of the subscription. Sounds like a mix of race room and iRacing, with the scales inclined more towards the iRacing model. At least you will be able to race against drivers who may be using cars you don't own yourself. All in all, this was a great QA session with many questions answered and a team very open to answering them. Of course, given the nature of software development and the phase in the development of the sim, some of the answers could not but be vague. But we got the impression that where possible, CEO and developers were giving as much information as they had. Of course, as they say, the proof is always in the pudding, and we'll have to see what they deliver in the closed beta, the subsequent open beta and beyond, but their information policy seems to be solid as far as we could see during the hour and change the session took place. For more news and more joy of sim racing, check the playlist to the left or the video to the right. Until next time, save fuel, collect pickup, and we'll see each other on the podium.